So first of all, let's understand the scope of the courses, like both the courses. So as far as scope is concerned, I will directly start with MBA Finance. I mean, when I say MBA Finance, I mean to say MBA as a whole, by the way. So, okay, as far as MBA Finance is concerned, the first thing that you should understand is MBA is more of a generic course. Now, when I say generic, I don't want to demean it. It doesn't mean that it's a general kind of a course, doesn't have a value and all that stuff. No, not at all. What I'm trying to tell you is generic means it kind of focuses on everything that impacts company. I mean, it focuses everything which is inside the company, outside the company, period. It focuses nationally, internationally, micro, macro, all the factors taking into consideration. So that's what MBA Finance is exactly gonna do. So this course is basically has a holistic approach. Okay, that's the reason I said, like, it focuses on everything. So for the fact it focuses on everything, it has a 360-degree perspective. It looks one problem from all the angle. It doesn't only go with one set rule as such. So if you're a finance manager, if you're working for any company, it can be FMCG, it can be an IT company, or it can be any company for that matter, you will be looking at a problem from all the aspects. So if you're launching a product, okay, if you're launching a product, you are not only going to be concerned about the cost, the budget, or how it's going to impact your financial statements, but you also need to understand how are you going to take care of your cost, how are you going to line up your budget, and how it's going to impact your financial statement, looking at the other branches of management, predominantly marketing, ops, human resources, and strategy, definitely. Okay, so when I talk about moat, moat is basically a concept coined by Warren Buffett. So if you're a finance guy and if you have studied MBA Finance, you have a good idea as far as moat is concerned, which basically talks about Porter's 5 forces, the entry, the substitutions, and so on and so forth. So what you do is basically you take into consideration all the aspects when you are about to make a financial decision. Fine. Now, I'm not saying that MSc Finance guys are incapable or they will not be able to do it. The only thing that differs, or the only thing that kind of distinguishes these two guys out here, is exposure. Okay, now again, it's a personal opinion, by the way. I don't think that as far as MSc Finance is concerned, you really have to worry about the moat, the Porter 5 forces, and other strategies or other segments of the management, because your main job, your predominant job, is to focus on the numbers. Okay, now guys, trust me, it will take a lot of time to explain everything in detail. I'm only gonna touch base the points. Now, it doesn't mean that MSc Finance guys do not go beyond the numbers. They do, they certainly do, they have to do it. But the only thing is that the exposure, I mean, like, if I've learned MSc Finance, if you're good at it, I mean, like, if you understand the business, it's a cherry on the cake. But if you do not, I think that doesn't really matter. Like, what does matter is basically get the numbers in a perspective, have your financial statements in a proper shape. That's it, you're done for the day. Okay. But as a finance manager, when you grow the ladder up, when you look at a business, you got to take everything into consideration. So that's what basically I want to tell you. So that's the first thing that I want to talk. As far as MSc Finance is concerned, right? In MSc Finance, what are the good things that you come across? So if I am someone who's pursuing MSc Finance, the first thing is it's a goddamn specific course. That's what makes it so special. It's a specific course. It doesn't talk about other branches. It does, but not in that perspective, or you're not that exposed as far as the MBA Finance guy is exposed towards this. So basically, you're going to be very specific. You're going to be talking about finance. You'll be learning finance from day 1. You'll be learning finance from semester 1. So what about these folks? Don't they study? No, they do actually, but they do it a bit. So if these guys are studying Sem 1 may say 20%, these guys will start round about say 40%. I'm just trying to weigh the intensity or the kind of the quantity as far as both the courses are concerned. Okay, so you'll be learning quite a lot finance from day 1 itself, from semester 1 itself, and predominantly the most important point is this course is really technical. Okay, so this is not going to be a lot generic as such. This course is going to be quite technical. So these are two things, right? These are a couple of advantages that you have if you're MSc Finance. Now trust me, these are not actually advantage, it's just that how you utilize it. The only thing that I'm trying to tell you is, guys, what's the difference between these two courses? How are you going to start, how are you going to kickstart your MBA Finance, and how are you going to kickstart your MSc Finance, where you can see yourself, working on this. As far as MBA Finance is concerned, I would say that the MBA Finance guy would be able to value a company maybe at the end of the first year. So at the end of the first year, he understands how to value a company, wherein my MSc Finance folk out here, these guys, may be doing it at the end of first semester itself. You know what I mean? So I'm not trying to exaggerate one course, but it's just that these guys are a little advanced. They are a little ahead, as far as learning is concerned. Okay. Now let's look at the other perspective. Let's try and understand what exactly the advantage you get, if you pursue MBA Finance and if you pursue MSc Finance. All right. Now let's focus on the merits or the advantages that I said. Okay. So what's in it for the advantages? All right. Now, the first advantage that you get being an MBA Finance guy is you study all management domains, by the way. Yeah. So you are somebody who is quite well versed with finance, marketing, HR. You're kind of well versed with the operations. You are somebody, who understands the 7 P's, the product mix. You are somebody who understands the 360, the 360, the appraisal, sorry, I'm a little lost. So 360-degree appraisal. You're somebody who understands Six Sigma as well. Okay, Six Sigma, like green belt, black belt, whatsoever. So these are the advantages that you have, that this makes you a master of all, by the way. So it has its own advantage, but yeah, this is something predominantly helps you that you have a flavor of everything, that happens in the management. Now let's take an example. Okay, so say you are a financial analyst. Okay, you are an MBA Finance and you got into one of the front end, not exactly a front end role, but yes, you are working for a broker firm, or you're working for a hedge fund, or you're working for an investment bank, or you're working for whatsoever, like in finance industry. Okay, and you are a financial analyst, by the way. Now when you are a financial analyst, the first thing is that you are technically sound, no doubt about that. That's the reason you are on that position, by the way. How it works as a financial analyst, MBA Finance, you do not only look at those numbers. And if you are somebody, say if you are somebody who's watching this video and who's already an MBA and is working as a financial analyst, and dude, if you're only looking at numbers, trust me, you're not doing justice to your job. Why? Because as an MBA Finance, I expect you to go beyond the numbers. Now, what happens basically, as a technical guy, as a technical finance guy who understands every damn thing about the finance, I am more concerned about the numbers. I mean, this is something, a demerit, I would say, that we've been told to look at the numbers the way they are. We've been told to look at the numbers, the balance sheets, the cash flow statement, income statements, the way the company has produced them. And that's a fucking bottleneck, As a financial analyst, you should never be doing that, by the way, Or maybe you are an investor, you should never be looking at that. You should be going beyond the numbers. So the first and the far most, the best option or the best advantage that an MBA finance guy get is he understands the business. And for the fact he understands the business, for the fact he is technically sound, he knows the numbers and he knows the business, he can actually tell you that what drives the number. This is most important thing in financial world. If you're a financial analyst, you got to know the numbers are given by the company. Okay, fine. The numbers are given by the company. The annual report looks damn sexy. It's all positive. It's amazing. It's great. But you need to understand what drives these numbers. You're not somebody who has just made those financial statements technically, by following the accounting standards and following the rules and so on and so forth. You will be in a position, if you have utilized your 2 years of MBA in a nice way, you will be in a position to understand what drives the numbers. So basically it gives you an edge, that you go beyond the numbers. Again, if you have seen my videos earlier, I have been pretty precise as far as the corporate governance is concerned. There are a lot of companies. Let's take an example of Enron. Enron fucked the market because of they were financially damn good. They were amazing. As far as finance is concerned, they were amazing. Their financial statements were good. Their valuation was intact. Everything was so bloody good. only when you look at the numbers you get the feeling that wow, everything is such a, everything is fine. But when you try and understand the business, the way kind of Gufta the stuff, the way it became the biggest scam, I think that can only be happen, or that can only be understood when you understand these three things and when you know how to synergize these three things together, guys. So this is where the MBA finance guy can do well, if he utilizes his or her knowledge in a proper direction. So yeah, so you're somebody who doesn't only look at the numbers, you go beyond the numbers. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. And again, you can justify. You can actually ask the questions in the analyst call. By the way, if you don't know analyst call, it's basically a call with the top management of a company, and you speak to them. You can actually ask them that why these numbers are coming like this, what's beyond these numbers. You can actually understand if there is something which is fishy. Okay, now let's take an example of a ratio analysis. Okay, so if you're calculating ratios, by the way, the ratio which is the asset ratio or the ROE or ROA, guys, trust me, most of the time these ratios are not exactly the way they are, or they do not work the way they are. It's just a number, it's just a formula. You got a numerator, you got a denominator, you get a value, that's it. But it's your understanding, it's your talent, it's your information that you have. How do you analyze this? Let's talk about Porter's 5 forces. Okay, Porter's 5 forces, it's such an amazing concept that exists in the world of business. But let me tell you, there are certain industries, there are certain stuff wherein this Porter 5 forces does not work at all. So if you're somebody who is working on a deal execution, or if you're somebody who's at the front end of a company, and say you're working on the IPO or you're working on the funding, right? You got to know what is the Porter's 5 forces. You should know if this company is going to make the money or if this is not going to work. You should know these things. The impact of substitution. Do you really want to fund a company which has great substitutes available in the market? For example, the telecom company, of the telecom industry, right? So these things would matter, yeah. I mean, like, if you know a little bit of MB Finance, this is something you will be really rocking the stage. Now moving on to an MSc Finance guy, what that guy will be doing actually. So let's understand what are the advantages for MSc Finance guy out here. Alright, so as far as MSc Finance guy is concerned, now we just did the example of financial analysis. Now if I have to talk about a field which is derivatives, right? I think in case of derivatives, MSc Finance folks have an advantage, they've got an edge. Because as I said, this thing is quite technical. So if you look at your MB Finance folks, right, they will not get much into derivatives. They'll be learning all the derivatives, but it's just a bird's eye view. Like what are the options, what are the CDSs and swaps and IRSs and the CLNs and all that stuff. So this is it. So the MB Finance guys will not get in depth of this, but as far as the MSc Finance guys are concerned, they'll be studying this in quite depth. So Black and Scholes model, okay. You will be learning something called as Monte Carlo simulation. Okay, you will also be working on option pricing. Okay, you may get an exposure to work on bond pricing. Okay, the credit spread. Okay, there are many things. How do you value a CDS? So these evaluations of these typical critical financial instruments which exist in the international financial markets. So yeah, I think you are somebody who will be working quite in depth as far as these things are concerned, and this is fun. This is actually finance. This is where you sit in the office for hours and hours and try to understand how these things are valued. Okay. Now, if you're an MSc Finance guy and if your college or if your university gives an exposure towards accounting standards. Okay. Now, in case of accounting standards, I'm talking about the fair value accounting standards, which is introduced by FASB and International Accounting Standards Board. Then yeah, the MSc Finance guy, being an analyst, you are in a good position to understand how these instruments, how these bunch of instruments are valued and how they are actually reported onto the financial statement of a company. Now here it plays an important role. So in MSc Finance, when I talk about financial analysis, or when I talk about the derivatives, which is the crux or which is the toughest part of the finance, you have an advantage because you have learned, you've understood, you have studied, you've been exposed to these things in a depth manner, which is not as far as MBA Finance is concerned. Now hold on, again, it's very much subjective. I am not demeaning MBA Finance folks. I myself is an MBA Finance. But again, if you are in love with finance, even if you are doing MBA Finance, you can do this on your own. You can study, you can learn, you can read the books, you can do it on your own, even though your curriculum doesn't really want you to do it. But in MSc Finance, it's fucking mandatory. You got to do it. Okay, so here you have an advantage over and above somebody who's coming from MBA Finance. Right, now as far as MBA Finance is concerned, you will not be in a position, or I'm not saying, but maybe you are not supposed to do OTC valuation. Like there are securities who are valued OTC. You know, you're not supposed to do valuation of over the counter securities. But MSc Finance guy, he may be able to do that, and or he's supposed to do that. Again, accounting standards, MBA Finance guy doesn't really bother much about it. MSc Finance guy, yes, you got to do it. Okay, now when we move ahead as far as the MSc Finance is concerned, now when you talk about corporate finance, I think corporate finance is something an MBA Finance guy can also do and MSc Finance guy can also do side by side. Valuations of a company, I think you guys both stand equally. These are the profiles basically, you know, you guys look at. That's the reason I'm making a mention about it. So corporate finance, valuations, hedge funds. Hedge funds, MSc Finance guys will have an advantage because you'll be learning a lot of stuff in depth which are like technically driven. So I think profiles which are core finance, MSc Finance guys will have a good advantage on it. Okay, now let's understand what are the career paths and you know how it will help you to do MBA Finance or to do MSc Finance. All right, so let's now try to, you know, kind of discuss both the ways side by side. Okay, now listen to me very carefully for next 10 minutes. Okay, so after doing a lot of worked on profile, I myself, by profession, I'm an investment banker. I had worked for companies like Google. I've done the analysis for Google, Microsoft, eBay, Qualcomm, Kellogg, so on and so forth. Been there on the Wall Street. Have done it. Have seen it. Have actually seen that, the front end to back end kind of thing. Now, let me tell you something about finance. Okay. Now, when you talk about finance, guys, let me tell you, this is actually a technical job. Okay. In today's world, if you look at the financial jobs that you're getting in Indian markets, if you're not from tier 1, like, you know, if you're not from top 15 BA schools in India, trust me, you are not doing actual finance job. Okay. Now, when I say an actual finance job, see wholesale banking, right? Wholesale banking is also a financial job, yeah, and it's an amazing job. People from top-notch colleges, they get paid more than 25 lakhs to be part of wholesale banking. It's a job, it's a wholesale banking, it's a fantastic profile, but this is not something which is more technical. Okay, now when I talk about a financial job which are technical, if you're in top 15 colleges in India, I think your life is sorted. You get in on a little higher profile wherein you are working on a technical front also and you're working on a management front also. Okay, so let's not talk about this, but let's try and understand what if you're not here. Okay, what if you're not one of these things? But trust me, you know, people from IIM, ABC, they get exposed towards investment bank. They are at the front end. They are traders. You know, they are actually working at the front end. They are involved into the mergers and acquisition. They are involved into the consulting. They are also part of hedge fund. They are also part of credit analysis. They are part of venture capitalists, private equity. They are part of valuations. They are someone who is working on the derivative valuation, so on and so forth. So people from top colleges, they have that kind of an opportunity, they have that kind of an exposure. Now let's understand what's happening in Indian market basically. Now when you talk about MBA Finance, it's not that easy to enter into MBA financial core profiles. Now that's where I think MSc Finance will always have an edge over and above MBA Finance guy. Why? Now, see, if you're from a top-notch college, right, if you've done MBA from top-notch college, your job is basically a management. You're not going to do much of the technical stuff. Your job is basically drive the numbers and do everything to help the numbers to go up the ladder. Now, how it works, there is a different angle, by the way. So if you're somebody who wants to pursue a career in IB or hedge fund or corporate finance or valuation, so on and so forth, you need to have a good technical knowledge. and you need to also have a brand, backed by your knowledge, by the way. Now, the point here is MSc Finance will help you for long term. Trust me, MBA Finance will help you for long term. Even though you are a person, somebody from top-notch college, you're going to start with analyst in investment banking. You got to prove, prove your knowledge, you got to prove your mettle, then you will grow the ladder up. You will not be directly becoming associate vice president or vice president, no. See, my counterparts, I don't want to take names of, I really don't want to tell the colleges, but my counterparts, when I speak to them, they are basically from, top 10 or top 20 B schools in the world. They also start from analyst level, actually. Yeah, they do. Okay. Now, there is a different ball game altogether. Say, if you worked as an analyst, then you went on to do your MBA Finance from, like, say, the HBS or the GBS or what, and so on and so forth, then yeah, you can grow the ladder up. Say, in a trading domain, you can grow the ladder up. You can be a vice president who gets the work done from the analyst, senior analyst, managers, and who understands the risk, who understands the exposure, who understands the valuation, and who can foresee what's coming on your way. That's a different ballgame altogether. But to begin over here, you will start from a scratch. You will have to start from scratch. Now here, the point is, MSc Finance guys will do very well because they're technically sound. So if you feel that you will do MBA Finance and directly you'll be at a vice president or a AVP level, I think you are wrong. That's not the reality. So as far as finance is concerned, guys, finance is damn technical. There are a lot of people who do finance and they land up in the sales job. We all know that, this is a brutal reality, but you got to face it. People do land up in marketing jobs. Why? Because that's reality, by the way. Okay, so as far as MSc Finance is concerned, it will help you long term. How? Because you're technically strong, you have learned the stuff in depth, you have understood that, and you have kind of devoted yourself 2 years towards learning finance from day one till the last date. Okay, but again, there is an exception, right? There may be somebody who has done MBA Finance and has done a great job as far as the understanding is concerned. But again, like when I look at MSc Finance guy, my first perception is that, okay, this guy must be technically really strong, and that's what works in financial domain. You are good with your communication, you are good with your presentation, you are like damn good. That's the add-on. But if you are not technically sound, then I don't want to say this bluntly, but yeah, you know what I mean, right? So technical knowledge is provided at a very high level as far as MSc Finance course is concerned. Now, in the long run, when I talk about in the long run, see, I am not looking at, as far as my MBA Finance is concerned or my finance is concerned, I'm not looking at managers, to be very honest. I don't want somebody to, I have CS for that. Yeah, I have CS for that, to do my capital budgeting, to get the balance sheet in shape, to work on the capital structure. I do have CAs who can work like CA 5 to 6 years. Yeah, you're going to be a financial manager, and these guys are like, they are super awesome. Okay, but just after your MBA Finance, I think you need to get technical things done first, and then you can move the ladder up. So even though you are a manager, you are supposed to work on the technical front first. So even you are in investment bank, you're working as a trader, you're going to start as an analyst, work for like a couple of years, like 2 years, 2.5 years, then you will be moved to the ladder up, say you'll be a manager, then you'll be AVP. But the point here is that the only thing that matters is the knowledge and how much you know about the stuff. So MSc Finance is that kind of a course which will help you to kind of get yourself into the core financial jobs, which are investment banking, hedge funds, which are venture capitalists and private equities. Again, there is an exception. If you're from top 10 B schools, you can still get your way out there. But what I'm saying is that if you're not there, and if you want to do JB, MSc Finance, or like NM MSc Finance, or MSc Finance from any other country, I think this is what you can see yourself. So if you're somebody who are a manager, it's not like a marketing manager that from day one you have to generate business for a company. You're only looking at the revenue, targets, and targets. No, nothing like that. If you're an MBA Finance guy or if you're an MSc Finance guy, you got to prove yourself technically first. So that's the reason I said finance is technically. But what happens these days, or what's happening now in the country or in the industry? You do MBA Finance, okay, you are a wealth manager. You have a tag of wealth manager, but ultimately what are you doing? You are selling. You're a wholesale banking person. What are you doing? You are selling. You're selling your products. You're working on the deals. Again, it has its own pros and cons, by the way. So as far as MSc Finance is concerned, it will help you in long run because you are technically sound. Again, you got to study for that. Only tag will not help you. Fine. And finance being a technical thing, it will help you to start your career as an analyst or maybe a financial analyst, then have a good technical understanding and then grow the ladder up. See, again, how it works is, say if you are somebody who are technically sound, right, you can move from analyst level to another. So analyst, then you can move to senior analyst, then the manager, then you can move to AVP, so on and so forth. So when you are at this level, for the fact you are technically so sound, you are able to take care of these guys, and you are also able to solve their problems. You are also able to mentor them. You are also able to speak to client, you know. So these are the things that comes to your way, you know, if you are an MSc Finance guy. So there is nothing wrong or there is nothing good as far as both the courses are concerned. It's just that they both have their own pros and cons. They both are good. They both are solid at their own place. It's just that which college you do it from. You know, I hope the message is quite clear. But yes, as far as long term is concerned, MSc Finance is always going to help you because you have that strong technical background. Okay, again guys, both the courses are equally good. It's just that if you're somebody who's pursuing MSc Finance, please go ahead, do it. If you're somebody who is pursuing MBA Finance, please go ahead, do it. But try to do it from a top-notch college. That's the only thing that I want to tell you guys. Okay. Alright, so if you have any question, you know, as far as this video is concerned, you can directly get in touch with me on this number. You can just or maybe you can subscribe to my channel to stay connected to a lot of videos further. As I said, you know, the topic is quite vast. There are do's and there are pros and cons. You may agree to me, you may not agree to me, but I just try to cover it whatever I could in this 15 to 20 minutes. But if you have any issues, any concern, any doubt, you know, you can definitely WhatsApp me or, you know, just text me, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys. Okay. Now, the only thing that I want to tell you guys is that if you're heading for MBA Finance, start working hard. You are in the right direction. If you are aiming for MBA Finance next year, try to only do it from top-notch colleges, top 15 or top 20 colleges. Okay. I hope this video helps you guys. I hope this do something good to you. If you have a question, please get in touch with me. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you guys.